Imagine a land where winter can last half the year, where forests stretch beyond the horizon, and where survival itself shaped the soul of a nation. This is a land older than memory, walked by indigenous peoples thousands of years before any flag was raised. A land later claimed by explorers chasing gold, glory, and empire, and a land fought over by the most powerful nations on Earth. Canada was not born in fire and revolution, but through endurance, compromise, and quiet strength. It is a story of frozen rivers turned into trade routes, of indigenous wisdom ignored and later rediscovered, of French and British empires clashing on distant shores, and of ordinary people building a country in one of the harshest climates on the planet. From ancient villages and Viking landings, to colonial battles, world wars, and the rise of a modern multicultural nation, Canada's past is filled with struggle, resilience, and unanswered questions. To understand Canada today, we must travel deep into its past. This is not just the history of a country. This is the story of how Canada was shaped by ice, empire, and identity. Long before the name Canada was ever spoken, this land was home to indigenous peoples for over 15,000 years. The First Nations, Inuit, and Métis lived across forests, plains, coasts, and the Arctic. They developed complex societies, trade networks, spiritual beliefs, and deep respect for nature. The Inuit mastered survival in extreme Arctic conditions. The Haida and Coast Salish built ocean-based cultures. The Plains tribes followed the buffalo. The Iroquois Confederacy created advanced political systems. Canada was not an empty land. It was alive, organized, and thriving. Around 1000 AD, long before Columbus, Viking explorers led by Leif Erikson reached Newfoundland. Their settlement, Lance Auxiliary Meadows, proves Europeans arrived centuries earlier. However, the Vikings did not stay long. The land was harsh, isolated, and difficult to control. Canada would remain indigenous for hundreds of years more. In 1534, French explorer Jacques Cartier sailed into the St. Lawrence River. He heard the indigenous word Kanata, meaning village, and from this word, Canada was born. France claimed the land and established New France. A fur trade became the backbone of the colony. French settlers depended on indigenous alliances. Cities like Quebec and Montreal emerged. But life was difficult. Cold winters, isolation, and constant conflict shaped the colony. Canada became a battleground between two global empires, France versus Britain. The conflict reached its peak in 1759, at the Battle of the Plains of Abraham. The British defeated the French, and in 1763, France officially surrendered Canada. Canada was now British, but mostly French-speaking. Instead of forcing total control, Britain allowed French language, Catholic religion, French civil law. This decision would shape Canada's future identity. When the American Revolution began in 1775, rebels tried to pull Canada into their fight. Canada refused. After the Revolution, thousands of Loyalists fled north to remain under British rule. This changed Canada forever. English population increased. New colonies were formed. Tensions grew between French and English communities. Canada was becoming divided, but stronger. By the mid-1800s, Canada faced serious problems: fear of American expansion, economic struggles, political deadlock. The solution was Confederation. On July 1, 1867, Canada officially became a self-governing dominion of the British Empire. The original provinces: Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick. Canada was born, not through revolution, but negotiation. Canada expanded rapidly westward through railways and settlements. But this expansion came at a heavy cost. Indigenous peoples were forced off their lands, pushed into residential schools, stripped of culture and rights. Leaders like Louis Riel resisted this injustice, leading rebellions in 1869 and 1885. Riel's execution left deep scars that remain today. World War I. Canada fought as part of the British Empire but earned global respect through battles like Vimy Ridge. World War II. Canada became a major industrial power. a defender of democracy, a safe haven for refugees. By the end of World War II, Canada was no longer a colony. It was a middle power with its own voice. After the wars, Canada transformed rapidly. Universal healthcare, multicultural policies, official bilingualism, independence from Britain, 1982 Constitution. But challenges remained. Quebec separatism, Indigenous reconciliation, immigration and identity, balancing tradition with progress. Canada continued evolving, peacefully, but not without struggle. Today, Canada stands as one of the world's largest countries, a multicultural democracy, a nation still healing from its past. But Canada's story is not finished. The future will be shaped by Indigenous voices, climate change, global politics, a new generation redefining identity. The 1930s brought one of the darkest periods in Canadian history. The Great Depression shattered the economy. Factories shut down. Farms failed. Millions were unemployed. In the prairies, drought turned farmland into dust. Families lost everything. For the first time, Canadians demanded that the government take responsibility for its people. This crisis changed how Canada viewed social welfare and government power. When World War II began in 1939, Canada entered not as a colony, but as a sovereign nation making its own decision. Canada became a major supplier of weapons and food, a training ground for Allied forces, a key player in battles like D-Day. Over 1 million Canadians served. By 1945, Canada had earned global respect and emerged stronger than ever. After the war, Canada experienced rapid growth. Cities expanded. Industries flourished. Immigration increased. Canada introduced universal healthcare, expanded education, social safety nets. For many, this era represented hope and opportunity. But beneath the surface, deep inequalities remained, especially for Indigenous peoples. During the 1960s, Canada faced an identity crisis. In Quebec, the Quiet Revolution transformed society. French Canadians demanded cultural recognition, political power, language rights. Some pushed for independence, leading to 2 historic referendums. Canada responded by becoming officially bilingual, English and French. Unity survived, but only through compromise. For decades, Indigenous voices were ignored. Residential schools caused cultural destruction, family separation, generational trauma. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, Canada began confronting this past. Truth and reconciliation became national priorities. Though the journey is far from complete, this chapter remains one of the most important in Canada's history. As the world changed, so did Canada. Canada became known for peacekeeping, diplomacy, multiculturalism. Immigration reshaped cities like Toronto and Vancouver. Canada's identity became global, diverse, and evolving. Today, Canada faces new challenges: climate change, economic inequality, Indigenous justice, global political pressure. Technology, migration, and environmental change are redefining the future. Canada is once again at a turning point. Canada's history is not just a story of dates and events. It is a story of people, of survival, and of a land that demanded resilience from everyone who lived upon it. From the first Indigenous civilizations, to the clash of empires, from war and hardship, to unity, diversity, and global influence, Canada has never stopped evolving. But understanding the past is only the beginning, because the questions Canada faces today, about identity, justice, climate, and belonging, are shaping the next chapter of this nation's story. And that chapter is still being written. If you found this journey through Canada's history meaningful, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. In the next part, we will explore how modern challenges and rising voices are defining the future of Canada. History doesn't end here. It continues.